The question is, Dr. Gwen, what is government doing to empower women in business? And that's from Sibungile.
Okay, I think government is doing a lot, and what government is doing needs to be made much more knowledgeable and accessible to many of the women. I find that many women, it's not what government is or is not doing, but it's also what other leaders in society are or are not doing to ensure that women are not left behind. Because what government does every day, government serves both men and women. And government has also more policies that are biased to women so that we redress the gender inequities. And that's a constitutional mandate. So what we need to do is to really unpack the whole spectrum of from legislation to services to programs that are available provided for by government. In addition, government has to also ensure that the private sector and society in general empower women. But in business, I must say that in 2014, after many years in government, I kind of like retired, although I'm a bit back. I was called back with the life asset money problem, and I can assure you that one of the systems that had completely collapsed during that crisis was the supply chain systems and processes and professionalism in the department that really cost lives of people. But I'm raising this because for the time that I was out of government, I could not recognize the private sector that I left in 1998. Government, progressive laws that support women and equity in general, especially Black economic empowerment, were far advanced than the private sector. So the private sector is lagging behind. And I want to ask this question: what are leaders in the private sector doing to make sure that they also up the game and empower women? And women in business in particular must also stand up and say, government, the leaders in the private sector are not coming to party, and therefore protect us with more stringent laws. Don't do business with people who are not, with companies that have not clearly shown that they empower women in their own structures, in their own governance, from shareholding to directorship to senior managers to employment as a whole, but also in supply chain, how they use their budgets and from whom they procure as such. So it is a totality of leadership that must be held accountable, not only government. But I think if you can Google, my dear sister, on government of South Africa policies, you will certainly find that there's a lot. And there is a summit that is coming on empowering women in procurement as well. So there is a national summit that's coming, but also our president, when our president was the chair of AU recently until February this year, he also prioritized the economic inclusion of women of Africa. And therefore, even the African Free Trade Agreement policy has prioritized women. So we need a more granular focus in what are the empowerment instruments, but there are many. We've just had a panel of experts debating at University of Pretoria on how to use the knowledge economy to advance women as well. And we'll be establishing a gender equity and knowledge economy hub at the University of Pretoria, the institute, at the Africa Institute at the University of Pretoria, to monitor not only government, but also private sector and in civil society, the inclusion of women in the socio-economic development of our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gwen. I think we have one more question and then we can close off the session. The question is pertaining to the high level of criminal activity surrounding public procurement. What is government doing to reduce this? Are there any screening of public procurement officers or auditing so that their activities are evaluated while in office rather than when they have left? Because most of the stories are communicated to public after the person has left office. Thank you, Dr. Gwen. Over to you.
Yeah, my experience is that people leave just before they are caught. And I think we have tightened legislation in the country by saying that the accounting officer, if they are aware of unscrupulous or fraudulent activities, they need to ensure that the prosecution services are engaged. It may not be by the department itself because the people have left, but the criminal justice system kicks in. The procurement, fraudulent and corrupt activities are classified as part of serious economic crimes and have been made a priority. I've also referred to strengthening the capacity of the Auditor General, not only to issue a qualification or a disclaimer, but also to point out areas of accountability so that those responsible could be held accountable. And lastly, I also have alluded to the issue of using digital governance and procurement to ensure transparency. Transparency is also a safeguard, and you can also pick up early warning indicators if you have transparency. But I think you are more knowledgeable than me, and I look forward to learning even much more, to getting your contributions on how we ourselves as leaders who are not experts in the field can better professionalize the area and of supply chain and ensure that procurement is respected. Those in the procurement field are respected as honest, trustworthy, and dependable members of society whose professional ethics remain undented. So you are also important in making sure that the profession, professional ethics and standards are upheld at all times, defended, protected, so that the bad apples amongst the many good men and women are easily identifiable and you distance yourselves from them.